All right, what's going on, guys? Welcome to Below the Belts MLB offseason update video. So a couple months ago, we did a free agency predictions video. I think we predicted where 17 different guys will sign. Of that list, I'm pretty sure like two of them have, which is ridiculous. This is the slowest moving MLB offseason ever. I thought it was bad 2 years ago when it took Harper and Machado until February to sign. At this rate, we'll be lucky if all the big free agents are off the board in February. So I don't know, Bert. How are your feelings on what we've seen so far?
Well, and I think everything that's happened with free agency or the lack thereof is now amplified by the fact that Rob Manfred came out today and said this might be a regular season. We're going to have a pretty normal spring training, and we're going to have a 162-game season. So the idea of maybe saving some money to maybe not pay guys or whatever their plan was, maybe getting to wait another month or two is over. Like you got to get a team on the field come late February, pretty much latest, because the season is going to kick in. You want a month to at least know what you're doing with your top players for some of these guys. So I know we said it last time when it was like, oh, what was it, like there was some type of deadline. It wasn't the arbitration deadline.
The non-tender deadline.
The non-tender deadline. We thought that was going to kick off free agency, but I think Manfred coming out, kind of saying like, hey guys, like we're doing this, like essentially whether you're ready or not, might kick some teams into gear, and I'm kind of hoping it does a little bit. Because you could argue that like your position players you can fill in for the time being while they're still like either in spring training, just getting used to stuff. But like you got to figure out your pitching rotation, because you got to really lock that in. You got to know who's your one, who's your two, who's your three. Like you really want to get that figured out. And so far, the only team we're going to get into this, but the only team that have done anything for their rotation is the Mets and the Padres, and the White Sox bolstered their bullpen.
Yeah, so I do think I'm with you. I'm hoping that Manfred saying the season is slated to start on time is the kick in the ass that a lot of these teams need. We do have more clarity on season length and potential start dates. Looks like there's not going to be a DH in the National League, so that should give some other guys clarity. The only thing that we're still missing, and it's still the biggest part, is we don't know what fans are going to be in the stands for which teams. So I think it could be something where, as we see the season approach, teams, in maybe Florida or Texas or other places where they know they're going to be allowed at least some fans in the stands start the season, maybe they're willing to spend a little bit more than teams in California who may not have fans for months still. MLB did announce today that they're not going to require vaccinations for fans, which I think is a good thing in the team's eyes, because they're going to be able to potentially maximize how many people they can get to the game without having to turn people away because they haven't received their vaccine yet. But it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, because I do think a lot of teams and players are going to start to feel the pressure now as spring training approaches.
Yeah, and I just kind of past that, and kind of going on to the next step. Like we kind of feel like where like these free agents might go, might not go. For a while, I didn't really view DJ LeMahieu as the number one free agent. I always just kind of assumed it was Trevor Bauer. I thought maybe George Springer, you could put DJ LeMahieu as 2 and 3. Maybe JT Realmuto, depending on how much you value catching. But now that I've seen how many teams are waiting, I do think that DJ LeMahieu right now is the chip that a lot of teams are waiting on. One, to see what he gets and what the Yankees, this golden franchise that has all the money, is going to pay a free agent during this pandemic. And two, to figure out the rest of their positions. So, like, I think that someone like the Mets right now is waiting to see what DJ LeMahieu can do or is going to do. Because if he's like, okay, I'm not signing with the Yankees, you're not giving me what I want. I think a lot of the teams are starting to be like, okay, well, we're going to go after him instead of George Springer, instead of JT Realmuto, instead of Trevor Bauer, maybe even instead of Ozuna, and instead of, I'm looking at this list, instead of Simeon, instead of Turner, instead of Brantley, instead of Nelson Cruz, maybe not, but like people like that. Like, I think they're waiting to see what DJ LeMahieu does and what the Yankees do as sort of the first block to fall. And the Yankees are not budging or not bidding against themselves, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm. I think it's an interesting situation with DJ. I know a lot of people took the report that he was, annoyed with the Yankees and was going to re-engage other teams as a negative on Brian Cashman's part. I really don't. To me, that just means that DJ's offer that he's looking for is not out there anywhere. It's not. It would be one thing if it was like, yeah, the Blue Jays are offering him $490, the Yankees are at $468, and they're not willing to negotiate. Then yeah, I'd be pissed off. But if he's re-engaging other teams, which I also don't believe, I'm sure his agent has been in contact with other teams constantly throughout this process, then he would be gone. He would be somewhere else if the offer he's looking for was out there. But it's not. So I've been in a place all week where Yankee fans are getting mad at me because I'm saying the Yankees are doing the right thing, not bidding against themselves. We saw Brian Cashman do this with Derek Jeter at the end of his career. He's not going to give in to DJ LeMahieu's agents' demands just because of what DJ has done for us the past 2 years. He's going to look at the market value and decide whether or not that's something that they can give DJ. And I still do think in my heart of hearts that he'll be back with the Yankees. But the notion that the Yankees should strong-arm themselves into spending 85% of their budget this offseason into paying DJ when that might not be money they need to spend. They can get him for a better price, as if DJ is this end-all, be-all. Like, I'm just frustrated with the fact that Yankee fans are acting like if DJ leaves, we'll be like an 85-win wild card team. Like, it's ridiculous to me. Like, people are like, oh, well, he'll carry them in the playoffs when everyone else is striking out. DJ had a 615 OPS these playoffs. Like, I love him. I really do. But he was bad in the playoffs. Like, people refuse to even acknowledge that. And I'm not saying that a 7-game sample size is a reason to pay somebody or not pay somebody. DJ LeMahieu has done more than enough over the past 2 years to show how important he is to the New York Yankees. But I'm not going to bid against myself to the point where, people are like, oh, what's an extra $10 million or $5 million a year? It's another pitcher. It's a reliever. It's a starter. It's someone the Yankees desperately need. So, yes, I really do want DJ LeMahieu back, but I want him back at whatever his market value is, not $30 million over that just because.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think the Yankees are doing the right thing. I do kind of want to get into the moves that people have made because I think it relates to the fact that the Yankees are not being as aggressive with a championship as I think some of these other teams are. And it's a philosophy that I am all in on. I think when you have a championship window, even if you overpay, I said it when teams lose trades in the long run, at least you went for it. The Cubs lost that the Gleyber Torres trade. They got their World Series though. You know what I mean? Like if you want to look at that, oh my God, they gave this amazing can't miss prospect. They got their World Series. That's what we're doing this for. So I think that the teams like the Mets, the Padres, and the White Sox are going for it right now. Is that Liam Hendricks deal? $18 million a year for a reliever? Is that a bad deal? Is that going to probably come back to haunt them in year 3? Probably, but they're going for it. You know what I mean? Sometimes you got to lose year 3 or whatever it is, year 5 in the DJ conventional situation. Sometimes you got to lose that year to win when you have the window open.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with you. I mean, if you look at the Cubs, that's a perfect example of them in a nutshell. They traded, a career of a player like Gleyber for 3 months of Aroldis Chapman, but they won their championship, so it pays off. So we talked about this in the Lindor video, so we won't go too much into that trade. But, the Yankees and Brian Cashman have been afraid to lose trades. There's been a handful of trades specifically for pitchers that they did not pull the trigger on. So it's going to be interesting to see whether or not he does trade for a pitcher and give up a prospect like a Clark Schmidt, a guy that he's probably high on, but taking advantage of this championship window that the Yankees are in right now.
Well, I think he's got Ellsbury PTSD with free agents.
Yeah,
he's so. I've said last video that he's afraid to lose a trade. I think he's afraid to lose in free agency too, because look how bad that Ellsbury shit came back to bite him. Look how bad that A-Rod contract came back to bite him. Again, though, I mean Ellsbury's a completely different situation. And even if you want to argue the Burnett one is a different situation, even the Jeter one when he renegotiated, they went for it. They went for something that was, they had a window open and they went for it. I think that Cashman has gotten wildly less aggressive and he's focusing so heavy on his scouting team to build him a championship as opposed to buying it, which, is a strategy. You see the Rays do it. You see the A's do it. They focus on playing essentially Moneyball, but you're the Yankees. It's not like you can give him a 5th year if you're going for it now. So I I don't know. That's my philosophy. I think, again, don't bid against yourself. You're doing the right thing. But if that's what it comes down to in the end, I do think that you need to do it.
And there's a mix. This will be my last thing on the Yankees before we move on to teams who have actually done something this offseason. People have been saying, oh, if only George were alive, DJ would have been signed, this and that. Listen, George Steinbrenner, I admire the hell out of the man. He ended up winning 7 championships while he was the owner of the team. No one wanted to win more than him. He had a quote, you show me a good someone who can win with class. I'm going to fuck up the quote completely. But the guy loved to win. He was desperate to win. He was literally a fan. He said, I'm as desperate as the fans are to win. He also poorly ran baseball teams. He had some ill-advised contracts, traded prospects. Like, the reason that the Yankees built into that 90s dynasty was because George Steinbrenner got suspended from baseball for a few years, let the baseball people do their thing, and laid the groundwork. Otherwise, you probably would have seen Andy Pettitte on the Reds or, Derek Jeter on the Astros or something. So I do admire the fact that Cashman has put faith into his core to develop some guys, but at the same time now you have this team in place. They've been good the last 4 years. You have an ace in Garrett Cole. You're paying $36 million a year. Make the trade or two that maybe you'll give up a Clark Schmidt and he'll go to 10 All-Star games somewhere else, but it'll get you the number 2 starting pitcher who's going to help you win a World Series right now.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I've always wondered why teams think so far ahead. Unless they have a real good plan, like especially in baseball, you never know what prospects are going to turn into. Don't think about what this guy can be in 10 years. Look at what you have right now if you're a winning team and just go for it. Just go for it. So I don't know. And I again, we'll get back into teams that are actually doing this, like the Mets. They're looking at what they have right now and they're going for it. Again, they're waiting for the DJ chip to fall. That's what I think. But I mean, they're clearly not done. They have a lot more work to do, and I think that they know that. But getting Lindor, getting Carrasco, was that first step to being now potentially, I don't want to say the favorite in the NL, but they're definitely the favorite in the NL East, I think.
The Mets are interesting to me because they have so many different directions they can go in based off of what they've already done and the needs that they do have. So they added a catcher, so they're good there. They added a reliever, could maybe add one more. I think Brad Hand is a guy that Mets fans have been clamoring for. I think he makes a lot of sense there. They added a depth, I shouldn't say a depth starter, but they added depth to their rotation with Cookie Carrasco. He's a number 2 starter. Yeah. And they have Lindor at short, who's going to be probably their leadoff hitter, just a superstar. He's instantly the best player on their team aside from Jacob deGrom, but if you want to compare pitchers and hitters. But so you look at the holes that they still have or places that they need to upgrade. Do they go after a Brad Hand? Do they pair him with a Jackie Bradley Jr. and say, all right, these 2 moves were good? Or do they blow past the luxury tax, get a Brad Hand, and still sign George Springer? Do they, look at – I think Nolan Arenado's contract might be a bit much. I don't know if they're going to want to pay him and Lindor each $300 million. But, it sounded like Sandy Alderson was not happy with their third base situation being J.D. Davis. So do they trade for Chris Bryant maybe? Eugenio Suarez is a name that's out there. Do they bring in DJ to play second and put McNeil third? There's so many ways this baseball team can go, and I don't know. So I agree with you that I think DJ is part of it, but almost more than anything, I think the New York Mets' next move will determine a lot of teams' next move. Because I think outside of the Yankees, DJ's biggest suitors are the Blue Jays and the Mets. And you look at George Springer, his biggest suitors are the Blue Jays and the Mets. So I think as soon as one of those teams signs Springer, then look for DJ's market to heat up like crazy. That's when I think he'll get some real offers and actually put pressure on the Yankees.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of people are, you're talking about the big free agents, Trevor Bauer, George Springer, JT Realmuto, obviously DJ. But the biggest names and the biggest difference makers are coming out of the NL West with the Rockies. It's Trevor Story and it's Nolan Arenado. If they do or don't get moved, that's huge because they're supposed to get moved. The Rockies are selling, but they're selling pretty low on these massive superstars. These people who, I mean, you could argue Story is better than Lindor. I think Lindor is better, but you could look at the stats and make that argument. So I mean, the biggest differences that are going to come out are who gets those 2 guys. Obviously, you're not going to get both. That's what I'm saying, but like whoever gets Story and whoever gets Arenado, like that's their star on their team. And the Rockies have both of those guys, and they just have to decide where they want to divert them. And obviously where Chris Bryant goes to as well, if you want a cheaper option. And but Chris Bryant's a rental. Arenado has an opt out, but I feel like if he's in a good situation, he's the type of guy that's going to stay loyal to a franchise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're talking about two of the best players in baseball. You could argue Arenado and Story are both two of the top 10 position players in baseball. Trevor Story particularly is intriguing. I think he gets written off a little bit as a guy on the Rockies where the Rockies aren't that good and he's just another product of Coors Field. Trevor Story is fucking good, man. I think he's the best hitting shortstop in baseball. If you want to say that Tatis and Lindor maybe and some other guys get put over the top because of their glove, that's fine. But Trevor Story is right up there with Xander Bogaerts for just the best pure hitting shortstop in all of baseball. He is really fucking good. He's cheap this year. I think he only makes $10 million before he goes to free agency. So he's another big domino that could fall. And then you touched on it too. What are the Cubs going to do? Because, we've already seen them move Yu Darvish. They're clearly trying to shed payroll. Chris Bryant's been a guy in the rumors. Do they move Javi Baez with 1 year of control left? Is Kyle Hendricks a guy they sell on? So how much will the Cubs blow it up? Because I don't know if their mindset is, all right, we'll shed a little bit of salary, but our division's so weak, we'll still try and compete. Or if they're just completely going to try and blow it up now that Theo's gone and say, all right, we got to start this from scratch.
Yeah, I also think that's why Theo left is because he didn't want to go into a rebuild. He wanted to do something different. Mm-hmm. So I think they're blowing up. I do think that the one guy they keep though is Javi Baez, because you got to have something, to work with. And I think Javi Baez is the best player on that team. So I don't know, kind of based off that, but I think they keep him. They get rid of Bryant as a rental, and go from there. But I mean, do you have your predictions where you think these guys are going to go based on what's already happening or what could happen? Because I mean, these trades it's basically going to be who gives them the best prospects. And that's tough now because a lot of the teams that we thought had the best prospects have now traded them. Like the Padres, I mean, I don't want to say they emptied the farm system, because they didn't give away that much. But to get these guys, it would take a lot. You're not going to give up just one top 5 prospect, to get someone like Trevor Story or Nolan Arenado,
Right. No, I mean, Arenado to the Mets would surprise me, just given that what Lindor is probably going to have to get next offseason. I do think they'll bring in a third baseman, though. It does scare me that maybe they could be back in on DJ if they want to move McNeil to third.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say Arenado will get traded. I know the Cardinals were in on him last year when that was a potential to happen, so maybe he'll go there. Story, I don't know if they're going to trade or not. He only makes like $10 million this year. I do think Bryant will get traded. I think the Mets make a lot of sense for that, for the reason I just said. I don't know. To me, I just think it makes the most sense for them that they're going to sign like a Jackie Bradley and a Brad Hand and stay under the luxury tax and do that. But if Steve Cohen's going to blow past it, maybe they do splurge on a Bryant, a DJ, a Springer. So I don't know. I'll stick with my prediction. I guess that Springer's going to be a Met for now. But I don't know. There's just so many guys between free agency and the trade market. And I feel like the trade market, as slow as free agency is, the trade market is hotter than usual just because you have so many teams trying to shed salary. Like these guys that are getting traded for pennies on the dollar almost, and I'll transition it to the Padres, who picked up Blake Snell, who was a Cy Young 2 years ago, and Yu Darvish, who was just the runner-up for the Cy Young. So, you want to talk about a team that's going for it. The Padres are friggin' going for it.
And then I'll transition your transition into why I think that the Mets, I think your pick of Trevor Bauer going to the Mets, I think now that it's definitely wrong because they got Carrasco, so they're not going to double down on that. But now that's why I think that my pick of him going to the Dodgers is like even more likely because now not only do they have to compete within like the NL with the Padres, they got to compete within the division with the Padres, and they need to match up to that pitching staff. And I think they're the most functional organization to give Bauer what he wants. And I do think that he would take a little less money to be in that, like ideal fantasy baseball, metric, spin rate and all that stuff, be in that world and be in a good organization like the Dodgers. And obviously, he would love to be in LA.
No, I'm actually with you. I mean, I'm definitely fully off my Mets prediction for Bauer. It doesn't make sense after Carrasco and Lindor trade. Um, I think the Dodgers give him everything he wants, or that he's been saying that he wants. A chance to win, a chance to vlog. He's going to be literally in LA. He can take on whatever side projects he wants to do with momentum out there. And they're very analytically advanced. So he said he wants to have the conversation about pitching every 4 days. So I really do think that the Dodgers are an ideal landing spot. The only other option, I think, the only other team that I think could make a big push for him still is the Angels. I think if the Angels are just stupid and shoot themselves in the foot again, and just throw him an extra $50 million on top of whatever his next offer is, maybe he ends up there. But I'm with you. I think Bauer's going to be a Dodger. But also, do you agree with me? Bauer on social media is just beyond annoying and played out at this point. Like, just fucking sign somewhere.
Dude, and like when he tweets like the eye emoji or whatever it is, like, dude, we know you're just trying to drive up the price. Like, stop. We like a baseball Twitter is smart enough to know that like what you're trying to do is clearly just like make more money. And it's getting really annoying because you do it with every team and you're teasing all these fan bases. For a guy that I don't think is gonna get more than what he's worth.
No. Baseball Twitter has also turned on him and his agent so quick. Like the first time that they roasted John Heyman for getting a report wrong or like reporting non-factual information, listen, John Heyman tweets the most nothing. Like I get it. Like he's as a follow, half the time I read his tweets, I'm like, why would you even say this? But like every time he tweets something now in regards to Bauer or Puig, his agent's other client, like they're like, oh well, actually, da 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 da. It's like I don't think the practice is like to run every little detail that you hear by the agent and like confirm that that's exactly what they want you to say. Like he's got a job to do. Is he good at it? No, but just let him do his shitty job. Like I feel bad for John Heyman at this point.
Yeah, the poor guy is just trying to report the reports that he hears.
He's just trying to be second. Like, just let John Heyman be second. He's just going to tweet something out 10 minutes after it happens. Credit to whoever broke it. Just let him do that and do a shitty job at having takes. It's really not that hard.
Yeah, let Heyman be Heyman,
Just let Heyman be Heyman. That's going to be our first T-shirt as a YouTube channel. Let Heyman be Heyman.
Let Heyman be Heyman.
Yeah.
We'll buy it, too.
We'll ship him on.
Yeah, we'll ship him on. We'll get his address. Yeah. And then we'll have him tweet it out 10
I have his address, actually.
Oh, okay. Let's ask Rachel Luba what his address is. I'm sure she has it.
She probably knows.
Yeah. But I don't know. I mean, in terms of the rest of the free agents, it's still tough to say. Like the only updates are like the ones that have happened, and it's mostly been the trade market. So I do think that DJ is the first chip to fall, and everything else comes after. But past that, I mean, I think the big moves we're going to see is in the trade market first. I mean, and hopefully this spring training news and the season being full and ready to go, bring some change soon and some news.
Yeah, the only other team we didn't really touch on that is going for it is the Chicago White Sox. I think as of right now, since the Yankees haven't made any moves, we saw the Rays lose two of their top starters. The Astros are without Verlander, probably going to be without Springer and Brantley. I think the Chicago White Sox right now are the best team in the American League. And I know that might be a little bit dramatic, but their lineup can rake. Lucas Giolito is a certified ace. I think he's a guy any team would be comfortable handing the ball to in a game one. They added a 1A in Lance Lynn earlier in the offseason. That was kind of the first domino to fall. Feels like a million fucking years ago. But Lance Lynn is a Chicago White Sox. And say what you want about the contract, but they added one of the best relievers in the game in Liam Hendricks to shore up that back end of the bullpen. So the White Sox are another team that is going for it, and I'll say it, they're the best team in the American League on paper right now.
Yeah, and Nick, I think you forgot to mention someone, and this is more for come playoff time, but Dallas Keuchel. You know what I mean? Like he is playoff proven. Like he is someone who is a change of pace in the best way possible because he is confident in his ability. He throws one of the best changeups in baseball. He throws something different than what you see every day, just hard fastball from a righty, hard slider. This guy hits spots. He moves the ball around. He's got great movement. And, that coming out of the 3 or potentially 4 spot, I mean, I don't know what Kopech's situation is this year. I don't know, how healthy he's going to be. But if he comes back, then, maybe he would overtake Keuchel potentially. But, I mean, he would still be part of the 4-man rotation in the playoffs. So I think he's somebody that he is almost like their I'm trying to think of the right word, like their role guy that is going to be play such a large role by the end.
Right.
There's a word for that. Like there's like their spark plug or something like that, or like their I don't know the sports phrase I'm trying to think of. We've been talking sports for a while now, but he's going to play a big role. Bottom line.
No, I agree. No, you're right. He definitely is. Listen, having him as the number 3, that's not a shabby rotation at all. So I'm fully anticipating if Brian Cashman gets his head out of his ass and just does something, literally brings back DJ and gets one pitcher. I'm anticipating a Yankees-White Sox ALCS. I think that they're the 2 best teams. I mean, we'll see what happens. I know the Rays will stick around. Maybe the Astros take another step. They still have something in place there. Maybe the Twins exercise their playoff demons. But I think the Yankees' main competition in the American League is going to be the White Sox. So that would be interesting to see.
Yeah. So maybe the next video is a DJ LeMahieu signing with the Yankees video. And it'll just be a hallelujah.
Yeah, hopefully.
All right. So I don't know. I think that's pretty much everyone that we wanted to cover, right?
You want to just give one bold prediction each for some kind of move that's either going to be made, not made, just what's like one off the cuff take that you think is gonna happen?
Arenado to the Marlins.
To the Marlins, wow.
Yeah, they got the prospects. They were a playoff team last year. I think that with the financial flexibility that they have now, just considering they're paying absolutely nobody, maybe they take a chance on this year and try to compete with the Mets and the Nationals. I don't know. You said bold take. That was the first one that came to my mind. Arenado to the Nationals. I'm sorry, to the Marlins.
No, I said bold. Yeah, no, imagine the entire long game in Jeter trading Stanton was to make space for Arenado's contract in 4 years. That would be pretty fucking crazy.
And then trade him.
Yeah, it's just a constant. They trade him to the Yankees in 4 years, and then that would be ridiculous. Bold move. I'll say the Indians trade Jose Ramirez. They've already blown it up. Lindor, they literally said they were going to trade since early in 2019. He's probably going to make $300 million next offseason, if not close to it. So you knew they weren't keeping him. But trading Cookie Carrasco and his 2 guaranteed years of, I think it's 12 a year or 14 a year, whatever it is, extremely reasonable. But a team like the Indians, I guess it's not reasonable for them. So that offense, you take away Lindor, it is already very bare bones unless Josh Naylor keeps up his hitting from that 2-game wild card series. Tyler Naquin maybe takes the next step. I don't know. I think they already let go of Carlos Santana. So I don't know. Obviously, they still have Shane Bieber. They still have Zach Plesac. They still have Tristan McKenzie there. They'll be able to pitch, but maybe they are just completely going rebuild at this point. Jose Ramirez is one of the best hitters in all of baseball. He's a switch hitter, plays second and third base. I think they could get a king's ransom for him, honestly, given his ability and his contract. So if they're really looking to blow it up, I wouldn't be shocked if Jose Ramirez is wearing a different uniform come April.
Yeah, that's a much more logistical bold take than mine. It makes a lot logical. I mean,
but mine's a cop-out, though, because I didn't pick a team. You picked a team.
All right. If Arenado goes to the Marlins, though, I want absolute credit.
I think if Arenado goes to the Marlins, you're Marlins man now.
Oh yeah. I think see ya, Yankees. See ya.
I think he has to give you the jerseys, his tickets, deed to his house, probably.
Yeah. I'll get his email. I'll shoot.
We'll keep an eye out on that. If you're gonna have to, do you have to legally change your name to Marlins fan? You think if that happens, or is it just inherited?
I'd be Robert Arenado. I would take his last name.
Okay, that's fine.
We would get married. Yeah. Fingers crossed.
Lost over that last part, but we'll revisit. That'll be a follow-up question.
Yeah.
We'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
All right. We'll see you guys next week. Hopefully something happens with the MLB very, very soon.
Tweet us your shitty takes or how shitty our takes are. Either one.
Make it hurt, please.
Yeah, no. We want to feel pain.